All right, so tell us a little bit about your health journey. How does an electrical engineer end up, obsessing about nutrition for their career?
Well, it started, of course, with my wife, Maria. She had a bunch of health issues that she struggled with when I first met her. And she had extra weight that she was trying to get rid of, but she was doing all the things that she was taught. And even in getting her nutrition degree, she was being taught the food pyramid again, in college even. And she's like, I'm doing this. I'm eating, healthy whole grains, and I'm eating low fat, and I'm running marathons, and I still have this extra weight, and I still have all these, PCOS and all these health issues. It's not working. And so she started researching on her own. And at one point she went into the doctor, and the doctor basically just told her, these are the cards you're dealt. Here's like 3 prescriptions to deal with PCOS and deal with this and, depression because of all the things she's had, and the same week she goes into our dog, Tiva at the time, she started losing patches of her hair. And so we went into the vet, and the first thing the vet said was, what are you feeding her? And like for my wife, it was like this light bulb moment. The doctor never asked me what I was eating. And yet, just handed me some prescriptions and sent me on my way. And so that was her light bulb moment where she just dove into nutrition and researched and studied everything she could find. And as she applied things to herself, she started to heal, and she started to lose weight. Even though she stopped running marathons, she started, improving in all these ways. And then people asked her why, and, started following her. Myself, it took me a little longer, again, because I brewed my own beer. And I did, I didn't have any health issues at that time. I didn't have any, a little extra weight, maybe 20 pounds, 30 pounds of extra weight. And so I didn't have that pressing need like she did, to find a solution. It took me about 5-6 years to realize that when I ate the stuff she made for me, I just felt a lot better. And so I didn't want to feel crappy anymore on the weekends when I ate whatever I want, at restaurants or whatever. And so I just switched over full time at that point, which was about, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago now.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So with her research, obviously, like if you're new to this world, you'll be stunned to know that there has been lots of research done into this field that goes back decades and even centuries. You'd be a little bit surprised to know that. But 20 years ago, this stuff wasn't very accessible. How was she finding the right information about this kind of stuff?
It was, primarily just looking at studies, looking at biology, reading about biology in general, and understanding, things like oxidative priority and how your body prioritizes different fuels, and just kind of trying to digest it and break it down, and applying it to herself and see what works for her. And some of the earliest books on the subject that she got into were like Bullock and Finney, some of their work, which I don't know if that goes back maybe 15 years or something. Those are some of the first books that came in about low carb and whatnot. And of course, the original Atkins, Atkins, especially the early Atkins, the original books, he got a lot right in those books. We've got some of them right up here, but he got a lot right in those early books. What Atkins evolved into this processed food and packaged crap in the store, that's different. But the early stuff, he was really on with a lot of things, prioritizing protein, cutting the carbs down, and so there's some stuff out there, but it wasn't a lot back then, that's for sure.
Yeah, she must have had to work terribly hard. And that was back in the day where you could just go on your phone and just scroll around to try to find some of this
Oh yeah,
stuff.
no, it was going to the library and that kind of stuff
Wow.
primarily. So, and
Yeah.
books.
Wow, that's amazing. You mentioned Atkins, and I think that's a really interesting point. I'd like to remind people that they don't realize there's been a few different iterations of Atkins. It's kind of come and gone. And the one that most people associate with was kind of like circa 1999, 2000, where it was like, yeah, we were eating a lot of protein, and yes, you could take your carbohydrates down, but we were so fat phobic at that point. I saw a lot of people eating chicken breast, and yeah, they lost weight, but they were not very happy.
Yeah.
His original
Well,
stuff in the 70s was way before we were like we really had that fear of fat ingrained in us.
yeah, and that's part of it. And but also, we may get into this further, but there's some misconceptions in the keto world as well. And in our keto book, I wrote a whole chapter on this. I don't know, 7 years ago we wrote that book. I wrote a whole chapter on keto myths because at that time, there was a lot of this kind of stuff going on. And now I see it happening again. It's almost like a cycle that keeps sort of coming up, like the stick of butter a day people that are out there now that talking about you should eat a stick of butter in addition to your every day when you're trying to lose weight. And so, there's definitely a thing we have to temper here in that the goals matter. And when we wrote our carnivore book, I don't know, 4 years ago, whatever, 5 years ago, one of the things I really started it out with and really wanted to start out with is, what's your why? What's your why? Why are you doing carnivore? What is it? What are your goals? Because that can really change how you do it, and what your macros might look like, and a lot of different things. And how much you want to eliminate, how much of the plant world you might want to eliminate because of your why. If your why is something like bipolar or some autoimmune disorder, you might want to get really strict and go right to all the way to like beef and salt, right? And do that for a while to eliminate everything, and then kind of build back up. So the why is super important, and this applies with fat too. Like if your why is I'm 300 pounds overweight, no, you don't want to be eating a ton of fat in the diet. You want to moderate it down and allow your body to burn its own fat. So the context is very important with when it comes to dietary fat too.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and I hope everybody considers their own why for how they're choosing their diet, just the way you did. I mean, you found a carnivore diet for a very specific reason. Can you tell us the story of why you decided to try it?
Yeah. And so, about 16, 17 years ago, I was keto, and we never, as a house, as a family, at Maria and I, we never have cheat meals. We never go off plan. This is our lifestyle. We eat this way all the time, whether we're traveling or whatever. And about, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, I started getting this pain in my lower back. And I thought it was an old football injury that I had from high school, where I damaged a disc and it would slip and on occasion. But it would only happen a couple times a year. And this was like soreness all the time. And it's kind of moved up my back over a number of years and into my shoulders, into my neck. And it's just this soreness and stiffness all the time. And then mobility started to go down. And I'm like, okay, something's really wrong here. And I went into the doctor, and they did the standard Western blot Lyme test, which I now know is like 70, 80% false negative. So it says you don't have Lyme, but you really do. And it said I didn't. And so I spent another year trying to figure out what my problem was, because it sounded like Lyme to me, with all the symptoms I had and whatnot. I had migrating pain in my joints and whatnot. So then I finally got the proper Lyme disease test about 5 years ago, and it said that I did have Lyme. But because it had gone, I don't know, 6 years or something of symptoms progressively getting worse, now I was in this chronic state where if you have this chronic Lyme disease that's been untreated for so long, you have so many other problems, heavy metals, mold, all these things your body can normally deal with, that your immune system just is so stressed out, it can't handle anymore. And they build up and they cause all these other problems. So it's been last, I don't know, 5 years. I've been eating strict carnivore because it helped. It helped with my pain. And one of the reasons I originally decided to go strict carnivore at that point, right? It was 5, 6 years ago, right around when we started writing the Carnivore Cookbook. There's a Charlize Anderson is a woman. It's like 25 years now she's eaten carnivore because of her Lyme disease. She had bad Lyme disease, and she found that she ate carnivore. She had a lot of her symptoms were gone. And so that's why I did it initially like 6 years ago, and I've eaten carnivore ever since. And it does help if I go off plan a bit and eat some too much plant material, my pain will flare up and issues will increase. So it definitely helps.